Hey, internet, and hello, Calin. Um, I should probably turn on more lights. That would be good. Okay, so we're here doing part five of the blurry camera show. Part five of Kalin's coaching series. So parts 1 through 4 are up on the channel. Go check them out. Um, those are our initial pass through making the big changes that I want to see in his form. Kalen has been excellent through that process. He's been very communicative. He's been very clear with his questions. His questions have been very good, very valuable. And he's done an amazing job making form changes quickly, like faster than I've ever seen anyone do it, which is awesome. So we overhauled everything that seemed like a big ticket item. We made good changes. And now we are in the backsliding phase of things. So Kalen's been trying to compete throughout this whole process, which is always very hard. Like a lot of folks, they try to make big form changes during the off season if they're competing because you don't really want to mess with your form when you're competing because it just gets harder. So we changed up like not literally everything, but kind of literally everything in Kalen's form. So that's going to lead to a higher ceiling eventually. We're going to get rid of force leaks. We're going to start establishing better movement patterns, better habits that eventually are going to lead to more distance, eventually are going to lead to more consistency. That is not going to happen now. When you change things, things are often going to get worse before they get better. That's why having a coach on board is really, really, really super key. Because I've worked with folks that they're doing something that doesn't work. Like they have a scoop in their throw and then they're doing something to rotate way nose down at the end. So on the whole, they're throwing nose up or they're throwing launch up because of the scoop and then they're correcting to get to nose down. So you can't usually fix both of those things at once. So when you get them to finally throw on a flat plane, they still have that nose down thing, so they're releasing on a flat launch plane, launch angle of 0, but they're releasing with a -20 degree nose. So that disc comes out of their hand and goes straight into the dirt 20 feet in front of them. And they're like, well, that was wrong. I'm never doing that again. And I'm like, no, 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 no. You did it right for the first time in your life. Remember that. Do it again. We have to correct one thing at a time. So it gets very difficult, almost impossible to do that yourself if you're not aware of all of the variables. That's where the value of a coach really comes in, is they can see that bigger picture stuff and isolate variables and help you understand what's going on so that you're process oriented instead of results oriented. If you haven't heard that phrase before, look it up. Very important. Okay, so Kalen has taken some steps backwards, which is to be expected, and I apologize as a coach that I did not make it clear that that would happen. Camera is still blurry. We're gonna turn it off anyways. So there we go. Now it's good. Okay. So this is what Kalen wrote. He said, "I've never had this problem before, but I started having really bad accuracy with my throws. I played a couple local non-sanctioned tournaments, and all my putters turned into rollers." So that sounds like a wobble thing, just from looking at what Kalen has already sent me. And I know I'm known around here for how good and how far I can throw putters. So that's a big change. So right now I'm throwing them the opposite of how good I have before, and I just can't hit any wooded lines. Everything goes all over the place. I don't understand. I doubt I'm putting the form together with every throw. Maybe not even with any throw. I'm not sure. I definitely feel stuck right now. Understood. He goes on. I notice every release feels different, and most of the time, for some reason, in my pull through, I've been feeling a pocket form in milliseconds between my disc and my hand that makes it feel very unstable. Okay, that just made sense now reading that for the third time. And inaccurate in my release. So that's, yeah, we'll get into that. It almost feels like it just comes out early or something, but won't always fly that way. Okay, so then I went on to respond. Um, that totally makes sense. We changed everything, so everything's going to be destabilized, and especially if you're trying to compete, that's going to pull you back into that results oriented mode of thinking where you're like, okay, I just need this to go where I want. I just need to do well in this tournament. And that is not the mentality we want when we're trying to create form changes and when we're trying to cement form changes and find out what things we change we want to keep and what things we maybe want to let go. So we're building new muscle memory, building a new motor program. And that kind of needs to happen in field work rather than in tournaments. Okay, so something I said here, your old throw is pretty locked in and consistent. This new one is not yet. When something is a touch off, your brain tries to fix it in the next throw, and then you're just layering on more and more changes that haven't been adequately tested. So we're in the phase of everything changed, and now we need to dial down and get consistent on the parts of that that we like. Okay, so that's just like big picture stuff. Like when you destabilize everything, everything is going to get less consistent. So that's that. That's just like growing pains. It's going to get worse before it gets better most of the time. When people make changes as big as what you have made, Calin, it's not always smooth sailing. It's steps backwards and then steps forward. But I am confident that you are on the right track, and this is just a minor setback, and we will get through it. Okay, so then Calin goes on to say he was just doing another 1,000-foot challenge, and he threw his nuke 491 on flat ground, and that's the farthest distance he's had since he started playing again this year. There's video of that. It's somewhere between where he got to and what he was doing before, so we're kind of mix and matching the old motor pattern with the new one. That's fine. And then Calin has this video. Well, first I'll do a little spoiler for you. So here, these 3 videos, Calin was hypothesizing about what happened when he threw this, which is a new speed PR for him, I believe, 70.2 miles an hour. He said it was pretty hard for him to break 70 before, or he couldn't break 70. It was 69.9 was his best. And then he hit 72 again after that. Okay, so then here's a video of what the 70 mile an hour throws looked like. So I'll pull that one up for you. And then this is what we're going to look at for today's big coaching session, or the one thing we're going to try to understand and fix today. If my mouse ever shows back up. Yeah. So there you can see the problem. And some Calin posted this on Facebook, and some folks commented with very much the correct answer. So this all looks okay. The elbow plane is fine relative to the shoulder plane. So the way that we would visualize that is we would tape a stick to the inside of Calin's elbow, and it would be that way, which is what we want because it's oriented approximately 90 degrees to the shoulder plane. That works because then when you bend the elbow, the upper arm and the forearm stay on the shoulder plane. Those two things do not have to be exactly lined up. Most pros will pull through below their pec line, so their elbow and their disc are a little bit below their shoulder plane. But those things don't have to agree perfectly, but they have to work well together. So if your elbow plane is too far off of your shoulder plane, it's not going to work. So here, Calin's still going to reaching back on Annie, a little bit of suitcase in the disc. And then here we start to have a problem. So now the stick in his elbow is that way, and the shoulder plane is this way. So those are not 90-degree angles anymore. So now when the elbow goes up, sorry, someone is driving by with a very bassy subwoofer. Sounds really funny. Okay. So now when the elbow bends, the elbow is going to tend to go down a little bit, and the disc is going to tend to flare up a little bit, or a lot in this case. So then we get something that doesn't make sense, because we want the forearm basically to be on the shoulder plane, and it's totally not right now. And that's because of the way the elbow is oriented. And that's creating all of Calin's problems right here. So the elbow is well below the shoulder plane. So now the shoulder plane is like maybe there. The elbow is physically below the shoulder plane. And the drumstick is now oriented, the drumstick and his elbow, if you will, is now oriented very much the wrong way. So the elbow is going to bend in a way that doesn't make any sense for the shoulder plane, the swing plane as a whole. And we're looking at a very weird cross section of the disc. We want to be looking at the blade edge the whole time. Calin brings it back down. Now it gets to kind of where it wants to be. Now it flares the other way. Catches a bunch of wobble because it changed too close to the hit point, and then comes out with a bunch of wobble. So, Calin, that is the problem. Absolutely and completely. So, the easy way to see this is I want to be here. Because, so my elbow is going to bend around this stick. So I want to be like this. If let's assume I'm standing up straight, throwing flat. I want to be like this because my elbow bending this way makes sense because it agrees with my shoulder plane. My shoulder plane is here. I want my elbow to bend on the shoulder plane and the disc to stay on the plane. That can happen as long as this stick is vertical. Even if I come on a weird angle, everything's still going to work because my shoulder plane is here and my stick is 90 degrees to that. So everything's fine and it's all going to work. Humans don't like to do this. Humans like to do this, which puts the stick in the other orientation. So now my elbow is going to bend here. This elbow bend does not help me on this shoulder plane. So that's what's happening, Calin. You're getting to your reach back and you're like trying to keep it flat, but your shoulder is rotating this way to where your elbow is here. That's happening mostly after peak reach back in your case, I think. So you're getting here, and then as you come forward, you're rotating down. So the stick is here, and it started fine. And then as you pull forward, the elbow is coming down. Then as the elbow is down, the disc gets curled up too far, and then you have to fan the disc down to your hit point. The back edge of the disc gets a little bit too low, and then it comes out with wobble because it went from here to here to here, and then there's too much off-axis motion on the disc. Okay, so a little bit of a confusing situation, and I got mixed up between Calin's videos. He's getting better speed where he does flare this way, and he's getting worse speed on the clip where he tries to pull through flatter. So in my head, that's backwards. My initial response is to be all screwed up and flip the videos, but we fixed that. And now I need to level up to actually understand what's going on. So, Calin, the fix that I would suggest is we want to get rid of this. We do want to get rid of this elbow orientation because that's not going to help you long term. It is producing higher speed. That is an important thing to be aware of. So we want to keep the speed, but we want to lose the other negative aspects of that swing plane that are not helping. The negative aspects are the trail edge high to trail edge low to flat. That's producing wobble. So a high wobble stat is not going to be good. Ballpark, you need to be below 4. One of those was okay. One of them was 8, which is way too much. That's also going to help. This is going to mess up angle control because wobble messes up angle control. So we want to get towards a flatter, more consistent swing plane, but we want to keep the deep pocket situation, which is what's working for you in your current timing. We may end up changing that later, but for now, let's do what's working and not ask you to change your micro timing because micro timing is the name of the game. Like the video that Josh did with Zach Nash. Like you can make him throw whichever way you want to, but he's still going to have amazing spin because that's his micro timing. And it's kind of this indefinable quantity that is how a person throws. So we're not going to muck with that unless we have to. So what's working in your throw, we're going to stay with that. We're going to lean into it. But we need to tweak the variables that aren't working. So what I would suggest is we're just going to get away from this elbow orientation. That's it. We're going to keep everything else the same. So how do I keep this elbow orientation where my elbow is going to bend somewhat on my shoulder plane, a little bit lower than my shoulder plane if we're being technical? How do we have that work and not bring the disc here? Like you want to get the disc here where your elbow is in this orientation, but yeah, because you're pulling, well, no, but you're pulling through an Annie. So we're just going to lean into that. I tend to think that because you're bending your elbow this way, that you have the disc on Annie. That is not accurate. You have the disc on Heiser, excuse me. This is another motor pattern that people get into. I don't prefer that. I don't think it's the best. I like this better because it helps keep your elbow up. So we're just going to lean into that. So if you keep the disc here, you can pull through with as tight to your chest a pocket as you want to, and then roll up. And that's going to preserve your disc close to chest feel that you like. You're just doing that here. So you're keeping your elbow close to your chest and you're still getting a good compressed hit point that way. So the change is we're just going to keep the shoulder rotated internally so that the elbow is hinging on your plane, and we're not, that alone is going to make the disc stay below your pecs. So the disc is going to stay below your pec line all the way. So no more this. That's the only change. So suitcasing pretty much does it. That's going to tend to keep your elbow in the right position. So now you're going to do your walk up, whatever. You're going to reach back here with the elbow bending this way. And then you're going to pull through here and roll up to your hit. So instead of being here, flaring up and pushing the back edge of the disc down to your hit point, it's going to be staying low. So the hand and the disc are staying low, the elbow is staying low, and then everything's rolling up to your hit. So it might be a little bit different because you're used to whipping this way to get to your hit point, which actually helps because this is going kind of in the same direction, the opposite direction as where your brace is going. But you can figure it out. You will be just fine. So that's the prescription. Keep the hand down, keep the shoulder internally rotated, and pull this way. So you're keeping the hand below the pecs the whole time. Okay, so Calin asked me any questions you have on that. Little wrap up. So the goal with this series is, one, to help Calin because he asked for help on the Facebook page. And he's an exceptional student, and this is hopefully going to be really informative for everyone else. So that's the first goal, help Calin. Second goal is share that process with everyone. One, so that you can just learn something. And, clearly this is a longer format than the average YouTube nugget. So this is the depth of learning that I really feel that people need to have to get past YouTube nugget land, because YouTube nuggets are too small and they don't apply everything to universally. But hopefully seeing the whole coaching process like this will help folks understand what's going on globally, and hopefully that'll help people pick out and solve some of their own problems a little more efficiently. And it's also just so you can see a little bit into my process and make an informed decision. If you like my coaching and you think this would be useful for you, and it's financially available for you, please go check out the Patreon. There's a $50 tier, there's a $100 tier, and now there's a $175 tier, which what I'm doing with Calin would be mostly comparable to the 175. Honestly, he's probably actually getting better service than I would usually be able to do on that. But if you want this style of coaching, hop on that tier. This is where I can take care of you the best. Yeah, so that's that. I also now have a techdisc affiliate link. So if you want a tech disc, you can buy one. Comes in a cute little box. And they will kick me about $30 for every one that you buy. So please go do that if you want to support me that way. They also have that giant net that you cannot possibly miss from a mile away. So you can pick up one of those too. Okay, internet, thank you so much. Calin, thank you so much. You're doing great work. This is the next round. Ask questions if you got it. Okay, later.